going crabbing with my parents
Motivation.
because we just got a new prawn trap, and so we went crabbing. While we were crabbing, we'd already laid down the crab traps, so we were like having a picnic on an island, and my parents went to go pick up the crab traps from because we'd already put them down, and the prawn trap. I searched up prawn before because I didn't know what a prawn was. I spelled it P-R-O-N and got very different search results. Okay, so back to the island. Me and my brother were like, oh, let's go check out that goose on the top of the island, because I saw a goose earlier and I wanted to go get it with my brother. We'd have it for dinner or something.
Achieve the goose.
Goose. Achievement unlocked, goose. So we climbed up the hill, and we went up to the goose, and it was another goose sitting underneath a bush on what we would learn to be a nest. And the father goose, what we would learn to be the father goose, hissed at me. So, of course, I hissed back.
I can just imagine just going at someone and then like a small child just hissing back.
That's exactly what I did. And we had a little bit of a hissing battle. And then he was done. He jumped on my head. And he started clawing at my hair. And he just cut my head open. He cut my head open with his little claws. And so, meanwhile, while he was like flapping on my head, I was trying to punch him off my head.
Not grab or scratch, just
No,
punch
I
him.
was punching the goose. It wasn't working.
No, I wouldn't imagine your 7-year-old feeble arms.
Yeah, I felt pretty feeble. It wasn't a good feeling. So when the goose actually didn't manage to get the goose off of me, the goose went off on its own accord. I just stumbled away to like this patch of moss.
What was your brother doing that entire time?
He was probably watching.
Just in silence or just screaming?
I don't know. Just like shocked, mouth agape, watching a goose on my head. So I stumbled away to a patch of moss. And of course, I was reading the Warrior Cat series at that time. So of course I grabbed some moss and I pressed it against my head wound. So there was moss in my hair now. We traveled back down the island. We didn't get the goose. We didn't get it. We traveled back down the island. While we were traveling back, we saw a family on the other side of the island. And like this woman looked over at me and she's like, "Are you okay?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I just got like covered in blood with moss in my hair." It's like my hand pressing moss against my wound. And so we made it back to the picnic blanket. I looked for napkins, however I couldn't find napkins. And we saw towels, but I didn't want to dirty a towel, so I didn't press my bloody head against it. So while I was looking for napkins, my brother was screaming.
Not particularly at anything, just screaming.
Oh no, he was screaming at my parents who weren't there. He was, "Mommy! Daddy!" He was just like off the island.
How old was your brother at the time?
Well, he was a year younger than me,
Oh.
so probably under 7 as well. Hopefully. So, yeah, then finally my parents got back. My brother was still screaming at them. "Callie got attacked by a goose!" And my mom was like, "Oh, that's funny." And then when she actually gets onto the island, she's like, "Oh, you're covered in blood."
What'd you do, honey?
I got attacked by a goose. Are you sure you didn't fall on a rock? I'm like covered head to toe in blood. There's blood on my feet at this point. And my mom's like, "Okay, why didn't you use the napkins? You've got moss on your head, darling." And I was like, "I didn't find them. I couldn't find them with napkins. Why didn't you use a towel? I don't want to dirty the towel." So she takes me down to the water and I wash off my little head, my moss-covered hair. And we just spend the rest of the day there. We don't think it requires immediate medical attention, so we just spend the rest of the day there. And I saw like this long fish. It looked like an eel, but it wasn't. It was a prickleback. I remember now. Anyway, that was the highlight. We also saw starfish. And then when we got back, my dad and my mom decided to check out my head wound. And they found an 1.5 inch long scar along like probably an artery. And there was also a hair in it. So my dad got the tweezers and he was playing around in my head. Playing around with my head wound and tweezers. I didn't like it. I didn't like that one bit.
Did it hurt? Or was it just uncomfortable?
No, it was just uncomfortable. Because my dad had tweezers to my head wound. Alright, so, it's 1:58. We got 2 more minutes.
No, I said 2:30.
Yeah, good negotiating, by the way.
We can make that down to 2:15. That's half.
Alright, so, well, when we got there, there being the hospital, because my mom decided that this actually may require medical attention. We got down to the hospital, we waited 2 hours. It was like midnight at this point. When we got there, when we finally got into the hospital, like the room, after waiting, the doctor was like, oh, yeah, it's fine, that doesn't need stitches. Anyway, that's really the end of it. I got my head glued, and nobody would believe me that I didn't fall on a rock. It was the goose. It was a damn goose.